Now, before we get into today's episode, let me ask you something. Have you reached a point where you know that you're capable of more, but you're not completely clear on what your next move should be? Maybe you're navigating a change in your business, your career, in your life. You got a few different directions that you could take, but you need someone experienced to help you to step back, to see what's really going on, and to make a clear decision. I'm currently taking on a small number of private one-on-one coaching clients where you'll work directly with me to get clear, to build a practical plan, and to start moving forward powerfully. Go to resultswithjoel.com, fill out the short application, and tell me what you're navigating. That's resultswithjoel.com. All right, now let's get into this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Addicted to Success podcast. I'm your host, Joel Brown, and I'm here today with my incredible friend who we connected. This was only a couple of weeks ago at Gerard Adams' event, Leaders Create Leaders. He spoke at the front of the room. His name is Aaron Velky. He spoke very powerfully into how to live your vision. Aaron is a chief vision strategist, and he has worked with 100 plus leaders to craft a powerful vision for their future, to create something meaningful and purpose-driven, not just the numbers. And this is what the world needs. And I loved what Aaron shared at the event, so much so that I came up to Aaron and I said, mate, we've got to get you on the podcast. We're going to get you on the potty. So I'm excited to have you here, mate. Let's jam together. Living vision is a hot topic. A lot of people want to know how to do it. There's a lot of people that say some fluffy things out there all about the manifesting and all that, and it's a bit woo-woo. But with you, I love how you ground it in practicality, and it's going to be very helpful for a lot of CEOs, entrepreneurs, executives, coaches, and leaders that listen on the A2S podcast. So thanks for being here today, mate, and carving out the time.
I'm excited to dig in. I'm excited to get crunchy and tactical, have a little bit of fun, and everybody listening, I'm so glad that you're here.
Hey, crunchy is the way. I like it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so if you're listening right now, which 80% of the audience tends to listen via audio on the audio podcast, but if you're listening right now, do know that you can come across to the Addicted to Success YouTube channel. Okay, you'll find it on YouTube. You can even just type in Coach Joel Brown. You'll be able to type in Joel Brown and Aaron Velky, and you'll be able to find us there. Aaron is going to draw things out on a screen. So if you're listening and you're a visual person, jump across to YouTube, check it out, and you're going to be able to just absorb it at an even higher level when you're looking at it visually too. But if not, please don't jump on there if you're driving your car. Always come back to it, subscribe. And Aaron, take it away, mate. I'd love for you to just share. Maybe we could start with, there's so many directions we could go because I know that the conversation that I heard was very deep and very powerful, but I'd love to know if you'd be open to this, sharing sort of how this whole vision thing came together, because you don't just like map out a vision, let's just see how our 5 to 10 years are. You have something in there that I found very profound that a lot of people don't, and that's when the stakes have risen. So if you're open to it, mate, would love to hear how this all came together for you first.
Well, I'll share from two different angles. I'll share what vision was to me and then when vision changed. When I was in my 20s and started a company and was starting to coach, I was an athletics coach and I had built my own business. So I was moonlighting, daylighting in both of these arenas. The environment that I was around in personal development was all about vision and vision boards, and they were all over the place, right? You put this Christmas list of stuff together and you slap it on your laptop background. And that's vision. Well, this is what I want. And what goes on it? Planes, jets, cars, watches, houses, like that. It's an objectification mantra that we chase. And like everyone else, I had my vision board, giant magazine covers and all these things. And as I went through that and leaned fully into the exercise, what I realized is that the gap between that vision and today got bigger and bigger and bigger. So eventually I got to a place of non-belief. This doesn't work. It has nothing to do. What do I do today to get to that? Because that's ultimately what it was. Again, it's a Christmas list. Here's all the stuff that I want. And during that ride and launching that business was called Money Club. We made a sport out of money for kids. I was out talking to people all the time, in elevators, on the ride to various different events, at our programs, and in almost every parenting conversation I had, given that I was coaching kids. And what I was doing is I was casting a vision. I didn't know it at the time, but I was casting a vision. And it was different than the vision board antics of here's all the cool stuff that I want. What I was doing is I was creating something compelling that almost everyone I talked to said, I want to be a part of that. How do I become a part of that? And I learned something. I learned that vision for most people is a list of what they want. Vision for other people is a tactical diagram of where they're going. And when you start to build where you're going, it allows someone to say, hey, I want to go there too. And we've made leadership, anybody here listening can probably espouse to this. We've made leadership lately about who the person is. If you're a good person, good looking person, if you do cool things online, then I'll just follow you. I'll pay attention to you. And I believe that one of the major corrections that we have to go through as a culture, and also as we merge into this very complicated technological AI world, is we have to start asking the question, where are you going? Where are you taking me? So I started to see the cracks in that. I was able to attract a lot of people to a vision, to something that was bigger than me and it was bigger than them. And that taught me that, oh, maybe there's something here, but that didn't convince me that it was for me. So the second part of this story is about my loss, my heartbreak, my pain. I have had to battle really difficultly to be a father, to be very present in my son's life. And in that, I'll spare all the details, but what I will say is that I never thought that I'd have to fight this hard. I never thought that I would have to experience what I've had to experience. And in that, there became really clear two options. And the best way to describe it is this: at 18 years old, I'm having one of two conversations with my son. The first conversation is one where he looks at me at 18 years old and says, Dad, where did you go? Why weren't you here? What were you doing? What was so much more important than me? And that possibility still registers emotionally for me. That is option one. Because when it's that hard, a lot of dads are like, I'm out. I mean, the amount of money, the amount of time, the amount of energy and effort, the amount of emotional pain and grappling and nervous system work that I've had to do is extreme. Not everyone has the resources to do that, right? So option number two is at the end of that 18-year sprint, he looks at me and says, Dad, I'm so proud of everything that you had to do for us to be here together, for our bond to be the way it is. Thank you for sacrificing what you did. Thank you for the choices that you made to get me here. That's what vision feels like. It's not complicated. It's not this 9,000 page Iliad, right? We're not writing the Odyssey. What we are doing is looking at our choices and identifying the way there. And if I want option two, if I want to be with him at 18 and he's proud of the things that I endured and maybe not even aware of all of them, but he's proud of everything that I've done to be committed to him as a dad, then I have very different choices today with how I respond, how I react, what I choose, what I do not do. It becomes very definitive. And that's the way that vision needs to be. Vision for many is this Christmas list versus a linear, tactical, strategic pathway to a desired outcome.
That's powerful, man. That's so powerful. So if I zoom in on that, what are the few choices you think matter most between now and that like 18-year finish line?
I think the way I look at it is like a boat on course to a destination. So let's say we're in New York and we want to go to London. Well, if I'm on a boat going to London, one, that's a long journey, right? That's a really long road. I can't necessarily predict what's way out in the middle of the ocean. I've got to make choices based on right now. And I've got to look at mapping, right? Chart my course. And then I've got to look at, okay, based on the destination, how do I navigate the choice that's in front of me? And there might be a storm, but I'm still committed to the destination. There might be a wind that blows me off sail. Okay, but I'm still going to navigate back to the destination. So I think the better way to look at how vision becomes tactical is it gives you an outline of how to make choices where there is normally not a criteria. And what most entrepreneurs and CEOs end up doing is they make a choice out of either convenience or out of reactivity. So vision should give you the ability to make a tactical choice, regardless of what's happening today, reactivity, or how convenient it is. So the way I think of vision, if you are just listening, you won't see this, but I encourage you to jump online and check this out. So the way I think of vision, I'm going to draw it so it's nice and easy to see, even bigger. The way I think of vision is this very simple V. If we have a good vision, what it's doing is it's telling me what's a yes and what's a no. So if it's inside, if it takes me to my vision, it's a yes. So let's say that a challenge in my relationship with my son's mom comes up, like, but I'm committed to him, then I navigate the challenge, right? That's it. It's very simple. I navigate the challenge versus a no. And I'm able to clarify what's a yes and what's a no. What's in, what takes me to my vision, and what's out.
So the vision becomes a filter, not a fantasy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not a list of objects either, right? So I'll explain why objects get particularly gnarly in this sequence. So let's say that my vision is very wide, which I would argue most entrepreneurs have a very wide vision. An object list is a very wide vision. I'll connect that in a moment. The vision looks like this really open V. It's so wide, right? It's just like your arms are, it's like doing the YMCA dance, right? Your arms are so far apart. There's so much that is in and would be a yes compared to a very narrow and tight V. Well, what it opens up is this pocket. And if you're not watching, this pocket is the gap between a very wide V and a very narrow V. And I would call this a false yes. And if you're listening, you probably have said yes, Joel. I'm sure you have. I definitely have. I've said yes to the wrong things because I wasn't narrow in my conviction. I wasn't narrow in what I wanted, and I wasn't specific enough to build a tactic behind it. This is where objects become problematic. So if I say I want a Rolex, well, there's 4,312 ways to get a Rolex or make money, right? So if my goal, my vision is like, you know what, I'm going to have a car. Well, let's say nice house, nice car, and I get to ride in first class all the time. So those are my three, that's my vision, right? Well, usually that gives me a lot of different ways to get there. I might sell houses. What if I don't like selling houses? Or maybe I'll build a business, but I really hate running a business. I don't want to run a company. This is too much. I'm doing way too much. Maybe I get all those things, but I've put on 65 pounds. And even though I've got the car, the house, and I can fly first class now, I hate my life. And I'm 3 stair steps away from a heart attack. What happens over time is that width creates problems. We want depth, right? I want depth. And if you're going to get good at something, you might as well work towards mastery, because the only place that you're insulated from market conditions is mastery. And I think all of us as entrepreneurs need a very clear vision that helps us understand, maybe not every step along the way, but at least the next couple of how do I get to the vision that I want? And when it's wide, we have way too many options.
I like this. I like this. That's a real distinction there, Aaron. So depth gives you direction, while width, in a sense, just gives you more options to get lost in, right? So if someone's vision is too broad right now, what would you say is the first cut that you'd make to bring it back into focus?
Man, such a great question. The easiest area to build vision from is what I would call the void, VOID. So this is a list of all the things you don't want. And what most of us do when we create visions is we look at the outcome, not the process. We look at, here's what I want as a result of all my work, not real vision, which is about the strategic, tactical way and roadmap there. If you're not sure where to start, not sure what to cut, start with what would you no longer want? What do you not want? And what you'll be surprised at is that the majority of your options start to fall away. There's two ways to draw a shape, right? So if I outline a triangle and I color it in, this is what we would call positive space. I'm able to describe what the triangle is: shape, size, dimensions, all that. So this might be a way that I can draw a triangle. I can draw a vision, right? I can define what's in my vision, but it's hard sometimes. There's so many options. How do you know what you love and what you're great at and where you want to put mastery? So another way to draw it is to draw a box and then to color everything that's not the triangle. So I might color outside of the triangle. We would call this triangle effectively drawn by negative space. So if you're listening, what I'm drawing is a square and then I'm coloring everything except the triangle. And we would call this negative space because we've defined the outside of the triangle. When we're kids, right, we color this way. My son is 4 and he's coloring this way, right? Hey, color outside the triangle. And sometimes it's really effective to start there because your list of what you wouldn't want is probably easier to define. A lot of men, I think in particular, are much easier and quicker to say, I don't want to work on weekends. Great. That's an easy thing to define. That's a good boundary. I don't want to worry about money. Okay, great. That isn't enough to define vision, but it's a starting point. And as we practice getting definitive and directional, what we can then create is more powerful. So we start to narrow, we get this V from wide to narrow slowly. It's a progressive process.
That's good. That's solid, mate. It's interesting because I casted a 10-year vision. This was probably about 18 years ago now. I was sitting in the room with a guy by the name of Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
And he challenged me to cast this vision. I commanded it at the front of the room and I committed to it. And what I've realized over time is not everybody thinks with an obsessive idealist mindset. I have a bit of ADHD, if you want to call it that, or whatever it is. It's a superpower to me.
Yeah.
And so I lock in and I become extremely obsessed, right? It's almost this tunnel vision. And I did find that I achieved my 10-year vision within 6.5 years.
Love.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think you're casting from a place where you only know what you know up until now. And
Correct.
so you don't know who you can become. It almost will blow your mind who you could become in the process. But I think what I was doing without knowing what you're drawing out here, because I love this. I wish I actually learned this when I cast it, because I probably would have achieved it in 4 years or 3 years if I had Aaron Velky in my corner. But I was very vigilant with yeses and nos. I was very much, I could tell, it was almost like my reticular activating system could tell when something was going to be a yes and a tick, or if it's a no, I was like, I don't have time for that.
Yep.
I was doing it unconsciously, but to hear you teach it now, I'm just like, oh, this totally makes sense. I
Mhm.
love it.
You know what? I think the timetable that we usually accomplish things in is largely dependent on focus, right? The ability to focus. And where vision becomes important is that if I draw up a car, right? 4 wheels. So for those of you listening and not watching, I'm drawing 4 tires. If I have 4 tires and one of them is sideways, the whole thing is busted, right? The whole ride sucks. So focus to me is not about one topic, one task. Like when people are like, "Are you focused? Are you focused?" I think we're missing the point. To me, focus is everything that you're doing taking you to one place. The definition I use of focus is directional efficiency. I know my direction and things are efficient to that end, which means you have to have a vision. I can't focus on something if I don't know where it is. And if I'm using like vision more literally, if I'm looking at a mountain 70 miles away, and as soon as I take my sight off that mountain, I'm effectively unfocused. So what it sounds like you did is you kept the end goal in mind and you kept your eyes on that regularly and kept making choices that align with it. Most of the world is snagging now much more aggressively for our attention and our focus. And our ability to navigate that is made more complicated by distraction and conveniences. everything's getting more and more convenient. So I want it faster and faster. And the only way to get to vision is a very long-term commitment, because something big, something meaningful to that regard is going to take years and commitment that's way off the chart.
I love this. It's almost like if you've got one tire sideways, it's like optimization just makes you faster at the wrong thing.
Correct. You're going faster the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is biblical too, right? And even in the scriptures, it says, those without a vision will perish.
Yep.
And you look at the Israelites in Egypt, in coming out of Egypt, they were slaves, slave-minded. They
Mm-hmm.
continually complained because they didn't really hold to that vision, and God continued to call them into the vision and have faith. And I think the thing that is great about what you're doing here too, Aaron, is when you've chosen this vision, this structure, this game plan for focus, there's less chance you're going to complain, right? Like the Israelites continued to complain in the desert because they didn't really own the vision.
Right.
Whereas you're saying, hey, you map this all out yourself. So if you're
Yeah.
complaining, it's because you don't like
Yeah.
what you
You
put
picked
together.
it.
So let's have a look at the vision and let's like see what we can adjust. So I guess what I'm trying to understand now is like, let's say the tire sideways. And when you think about entrepreneurs, coaches, trainers, leaders, we have a lot of them that listen to the podcast, right? If they do have a tire sideways, how do they know it's sideways rather than leaving it too late? Like a
Mm,
tire that's not treated when the tread's going low, it can blow out. How do we know what's going sideways? And like, what do we adjust first usually? What's that process there?
great. Well, here's where we get tactical.
Mm.
Here's the clue that you're off track. If you keep saying the line, I will do that when I get there. So here's what it looks like. And again, if you're listening, I'll sort of annotate this. We all live with two mountains. Vision is the combination of both mountains. But you may have said, you Joel, or you listening, may have said something like, "I'll get in shape when I," or "I'll be a more present father when I," "I'll show up better at home once I." That's how you know you're off track. Because what's effectively happening is you're saying something that matters to me is not being satisfied for the pursuit of something out of me. And once I satisfy this external thing, I'll do the internal thing. You can't get back fatherhood. You can't get back weekends with the family. You can't get back broken relationships. You can't get back betrayal. Those things are real. And I believe that much of what entrepreneurship allows is for us to be more authentic. The world is also moving that way, where authenticity is highly coveted, and that's what we use to evaluate someone's competency. So, in that regard, the more authentic you are, the better you are. Well, if we keep delegating and relegating our real passions and purpose and things that matter to us, we end up being more and more inauthentic day to day. We live in two mountains. The first mountain I like to call there. For many of us, it's a revenue number or a net worth number or an income number or cash number. It's something that is like measurable and achievable. So we're like, you know what? I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get my health back in line when I get to $1 million in revenue. So now we've created some sort of conditional avoidance. I would call it that. If I meet this condition, then I'll do what matters. But anyone that has been successful will tell you, once you get to the top of this mountain, we just move it. Oh, no, you know what? I'll do it later. Actually, I'm going to get to 2 million. Then I'll have enough time to count my health as an important milestone. So their mountain never moves. It just keeps going up. And we get to the top of the mountain, and we're like, oh my God, I'm at the bottom of the next one, right? We just keep on extending this thing. So that's mountain number one. The second mountain, and there have been a lot of books written on this. If you're listening and want to check these out, there's a great book called Die with Zero. Also, The Second Mountain is a book. But there's a lot of different writings on this. The second mountain is really important. And I think it's critical to look over the hill from mountain number one to mountain number two. And just start with this. Start with a list of things that you would do once you hit your number. I love this list, Joe. It's so cool to watch guys tell me their list, because then I get to see who they are. So I'm like, okay, what's your number? And they're like, 10 million. I'm like, great. Now, that's not a vision. If you go tell your team that your vision is $10 million, you deserve to be uppercut, or like a giant cow needs to fall from the sky and just land on you. Like, it's the worst thing you can do to a team. So don't do that. Instead, tell me all the things that you would do. And I hear amazing things about the second mountain. People have said, you know what, I'd start a nonprofit for veterans. I'd build a scholarship fund so that kids in high school didn't have to go to college, they could pay for trade school, because I believe that that changed my life. Or, you know what, man, I'd go speak to middle school kids because I was bullied in middle school. And I don't know that I ever thought that I could be successful, but maybe I could reach them. I'd write a book. I'd learn to dance. I'd draw. I'd take my wife to Italy. I'd go travel the world. I'd learn Spanish. Like, that's when you see someone come to life, because they're not thinking in conditions from mountain number one. They're thinking in vision. This is art, not science. And this second mountain and the first mountain, when woven together, give us the fittest and best opportunity to really decode what someone's actual vision is. It's no longer a mystery. We can say, all right, how do we bolt on this scholarship fund now? How do we bolt onto it now? And what we see time and time again is that if a basic business bolts on a scholarship fund with like minimal resources, right? We're not talking like $5,000, like $500. If you bolt that on today, now that becomes woven into the business structure and strategy. And as the business expands, the scholarship fund expands with it, right? It can be a percentage of revenue, percentage of profit. And then it can live in a space where it gives away $50, $100, $500,000. But it's because it was woven in. Because the guy that gets to the top of Mount there, who's like, hey, let's start a scholarship fund, is way too busy at that level to weave it in, and it's way more complicated. So we start it now. And what happens when you build a scholarship fund? You get attention. You get all kinds of press. You get to talk about something that's truly meaningful. And people are attracted to businesses that have this kind of ethos embedded in them. It's vision.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. That's it, man. Vision isn't the trophy at the top. It's the structure that you weave in now.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Yeah. If someone wanted help turning that kind of vision into a real game plan, like what would you want them to do first?
Having a list of, what is Mount there, and then what is the second mountain is always a good place to start.
Mhm.
Most most of what I see in working with companies all across the country is that people come in with their list of here's what I want the business to look like at the end. So they're like revenue, team size, maybe like products, and they have this array of things that they want. But they haven't really given thought to A, how do we get there? But B, also, how does it work? And spending time as a business owner on this is critical. This is one of the most powerful things you can do for ROI also. If you imagine your business selling 100 units a year, and you want to in the future say, okay, we're going to sell 5,000 units a year. We're going to really grow. It's wonderful to write that down on a piece of paper and be like, my vision is 5,000 units and we're going to be amazing and successful. And I'm taking vacations to Barcelona and I live this amazing life. But it doesn't give you enough to make decisions on, right? Like, what do you do tomorrow to do that? And all of a sudden, and you can imagine this, Joel, if I said to you, okay, what do you do tomorrow to get from 100 units to 5,000 units? You've got a huge set of considerations. There's so many different options. We're back to the problem. Too many options. And what is important is to look at how does that run? Why does that run? What's the problem that you're solving? And if you have that many units, what does it look like operationally? What's it look like on this side? And we end up doing a lot of work with organizations that have become more and more frayed, more and more complicated over time, that need to get narrow again. And I think anyone would benefit from really sitting down and saying, how do I get really narrow and think about the process that gets me 5,000 sales, not just write more detail about 5,000 and how great it is.
Yeah. It's like, let's look at the operation rather than the aspiration.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, so I'm getting really clear here on this. I feel just thinking now back to when I was working in other businesses and seeing what was happening in the background. Classic example, there was a coaching offer that I was working with, and they achieved $1 million month, right? Oh, $1 million cash collected, right? Everyone's like, yay. And then 10 minutes later, next goal, 2.5 million.
Yeah,
And then like I remember just seeing the team was like, oh, okay. And then they were on board. And then you see within a matter of days, they're like, oh man, I'm stressed. Oh, they're getting run down. They're getting exhausted. And then the next thing they have the next meeting, it's like, oh, it's going to be 7.5. And then now, by the end of the year, we're going to be at 10 million. Those numbers meant nothing to the team.
correct.
All it meant is we need to work harder.
Yep.
It didn't, there wasn't even a, hey, and here's what our game plan is. And like, here, this is how it's going to benefit you. And here's what we're doing on the back end. I think rarely anybody that's working for someone cares about like what's actually happening for the CEO or the founder. They want to feel like what they're doing has meaning and purpose, but
Yes.
also is going to fund their, paying the bills, paying the rent, helping their family, whatever it may be. So sometimes these numbers can just be pie in the sky for some people, and it translates to just more stress coming.
And think about what we're asking of a team member that's highly proficient in that example, right? We're saying, hey, keep hitting my goals, keep hitting my dream, keep funding my future. And if you want high caliber people, they will quickly figure out that you don't have a clue what you're really doing and are misaligned. And for a lot of business owners, they struggle with getting A players. They struggle with finding top tier talent that they don't have to micromanage. And the reason is there's no vision and there's no space for them. So when I think of vision, we need something big enough that someone else's vision can fit inside it. They can see their future in it. They can see their opportunity. They can see what's in it for them, more or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
A players can smell misalignment really fast.
yes, yes. And here's why, right? Let's say I wanted to work for somebody. I've been there many times in my career where I'm like, should I just go get a job? Like things are dark and hard and difficult. And if I'm going to go work for somebody and I'm that good, and I'm pretty fucking good, if I'm good and I'm going to submit myself to you telling me when I got to work and what I got to work on and all the time that I got to give, and I got to let go of my team and surrender everything. And like when you call, pick up the phone, right? If I'm going to do that, I need to know that it's worth it. And there has to be something bigger than just me on the line. And most business owners are communicating a vision that is entirely self centered. It is 100% about what they get. And what I learned in my 20s, to the reference point earlier, is that I was casting a vision of something completely not about me. I'll tell you what it was. I went around and I said, hey, what would your life look like if at age 12 or 14 or 16 or 13 or 15, you learned the most incredible lessons around money? Not just like mom and pop wisdom, but real understanding of what to do to earn, to save, to invest, and to spend better. What if we changed your behavior? What if we taught you, not in a classroom, but in a sport, how to make good choices with money? How would your life be different? They're like, oh my God, I'd have this and this and this. I'd probably be retired. And I was like, great. I don't know that I can do that for you. I don't know that I can turn back that time, but I would love your help in bringing that kind of education to 10,000 kids across the country. Can you help me? The amount of signups, like I was insane. We had Fortune 500 companies and wealth advisors and entrepreneurs and strategists and parents and grandparents come out left and right because it wasn't about me.
That's the kind of vision that people can feel in their bones.
Yes.
It's different.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in that case, like what changed for you when you made the vision about changing behavior instead of just chasing outcomes?
At a core, business elevation becomes about mastering a process, right? The best businesses are machines. And what is a machine? A machine is a device that allows you to duplicate an outcome by mastering the process. And largely because of topics we've mentioned, reactivity and convenience, many entrepreneurs at all levels, like I see this at 6 figures, I also see it at 8 and 9 figures. We're hoping that we get similar results without a repeatable process. And part of vision is mastering that process so that we can not only get repeatability, but so that we can have a lot of fun doing something over and over and over. And if you don't love it, then we delegate it, right? We find someone that does love it. But I think that at a core, when I look at businesses and patterns and leaders that really need to reshape to get more out of their company, it comes down to behaviors. Here's the way we look at it. This is our entire formula. We call this the visionary leadership system. It's 4 steps. The first one is vision. The second one is strategy. The third one is culture. And the fourth one is implementation. So let's start at the top. I'm drawing this on the board for those of you that are just listening. Vision is where are we going? Let's define it. Who are we? Who are we not? What are we doing? What are we great at? What are we not great at? Then we've got to go into strategy. How do we get there? And what are the metrics that we're going to use to make sure that we stay on track? How do we create guardrails? Strategy can only be built backwards. You can't be strategic forwards. So we have to have a vision to be strategic. Then, once we figure out the strategy or strategies, who's on the bus? Who's going with us? And how are we going to work together? What's this look like? Are we going to be confrontational when we mess up? Or are we going to let it linger and just tear us apart internally like cancer? That has to be defined, and it has to come from leadership, and it has to be really authentic. And then last but not least, now that we have these 3 things, which are largely high level, how do we go about creating change? Implementation is about creating change. And organizational behavior and some of these operational patterns really exist when we start putting the pieces in play and we have to run a play, right? Like it has to be like pattern. When we watch the NFL or we watch soccer, the real football, like they're all plays, right?
Yeah.
And we learn how to move these things, but it's all behavior and it's all patterns. And people are what make businesses successful. Yes, there are machines, and yes, there are other elements that we can use around that. But at a core, business is about people.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I like that. So vision, strategy, culture, and implementation, that's the whole chain right there. So if someone came in to work with you one-on-one, you do one-on-one immersions with CEOs, founders, executives, which of the 4 links in this chain or the 4 steps do you usually find is the first one that's out of alignment for most people?
It's usually vision.
Hmm.
And here's why I say that. Yes, their strategy is misaligned, but their strategy actually works for what they're getting. So when they're like, I'm not getting the results I want, I'm like, well, yeah, because you don't know what you want.
Yeah, they want it better. So there's something
Yeah.
missing there was something that wasn't prepared beforehand.
Yes.
The intention is a bit off, the direction's a bit off, but they're still somehow pulling it off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's what I hear most often. Aaron, my vision is growth. I'm like, what does that mean?
It's a value.
Yeah, like, I have no idea what that means. You want to grow a third arm, or do you want to grow your revenue? Do you want to grow your customer base? Do you want to grow your pricing? Like, what does this look like? So usually there are problems. Like there are a lot of problems with culture right now. There are a lot of problems. I'm dealing with several of them this week. There are problems with strategy, no doubt. It starts though, we can't address these things until there's congruence between vision and strategy. And we do these immersions. They're 12-hour days. We have 6-month and year-long engagements. We have a 90-day group program. We have these retreats that are 3.5 days, and then we have these immersions that are just 12 hours in one day. So they're sort of like, rush me to the hospital, like I need help. And what I love about them is that in 12 hours, I can rip apart and put together a business. We do discovery on the front and back end, a lot of reporting and a lot of really good value. But the magic is watching someone lose their armor. Because the business world, the CEO, typically an entrepreneur, has to be so strong. They have to be so brave and be right and be convincing and be convicted to what they're building. But in immersion, you get to take it all off. And we get to really ask the question like, hey, Joe, what do you want? And when we're given that space, I think most entrepreneurs would mirror this. When we're finally given the space to say what we want, We actually get to build vision because we finally set down all the things we're expected to want.
Yeah. When the armor drops, what's the first real answer that they usually avoid saying out loud to you? Would you say?
I don't want to. I don't want to work like this anymore.
Huh. And why is that? Is it because they just trap themselves in their own business? Is it because they want out? They want to exit their business? What is it usually?
Most of the owners that initially might reach out to us and say, "Hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to figure out how to get out of my business." Once we realign these four things, they don't want to exit their business. And
Uh,
part of that is that operationally they might be trapped, right? They're like doing a role that they don't like.
hmm,
Part of it is that they often don't have a great team, and they don't have a great team because they don't have a great vision.
hmm.
But I think underneath that is this, it's a mindset, it's a pattern of like, I'll do whatever it takes to get this vision across the line, but it isn't really a vision because I never really spent the time to design it the way that I would want it run. And it's amazing when you meet someone who loves their job, loves their business, loves their company, loves their team. It is amazing. It's like seeing somebody with a Mario star, right? They're just like glowing and like sound bubbles off them. It's the
I love it.
definition of aura, right? We talk about it, but like you see it and you're like, oh my God, dude, this guy's like electric about his work.
Oh,
And what starts to happen is we think that if we don't have that, we're broken. I'm broken. Instead of saying, okay, something is misaligned here. How do I align it? And
mhm.
like a chiropractor, my job and my team's job is to make sure that we like realign the spinal column and click it in.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not brokenness in a sense. It's a misalignment, and that can obviously be redesigned through the vision process. Yeah, I
Yep.
love that, man. I love it. Yeah, look, you're doing very important work in this world. I love this because it creates a ripple effect for customers, clients, as well. You know, the impact that it can create for the communities too when businesses thrive. It can save lives, impact lives. So I love the work that you're doing. You're also writing a book right now. And how far along the line are you with your book? Are you almost finished?
I'm 75,000 words in. I'll probably write 120, 150, and then more than likely publish like 60. That's the
That's
joy
good.
of writing a book.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a process. I'm writing mine too at the moment. Some days you feel like just throwing your pad against the wall. You're just like, oh, where am I going with this? And then other
Yep.
days you feel like God has opened the heavens for
Yes.
you, and you're like, I got it. This makes sense. That's why I respect anybody that actually writes a book and it's them and they're poured into it. It's hard not to respect that, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
you're like 75,000 words or so. Is there any specific point of the book that you feel just a little snippet, little sample where you think that's pretty cool, whether it's a principle or just some quick takeaway so far that you realized in the process of writing your book that you think is that we
Mm.
haven't covered yet that you think is just a good takeaway for someone that's listening right now to get a taste of where you're at with it?
Well, I'll share it this way. Such a great question, Joel. I appreciate that so much. What I've learned, and the reason that we're in this space is that my hands-on experience and my work with clients over a lot of years of coaching has demonstrated two fundamental flaws in the way that people think about coaching. So a business owner, you listening might be one of them, can be really frustrated, like, oh man, like my health is going down. I'm like not as clear and focused. My personal life doesn't exist. I don't have any friends. Like I'm alone and I'm carrying the weight of this business. Like, you know what? I think I need a life coach. And that's like a category, right? And there's a lot of depth in that. We might find spiritual or more emotional, but there's like this whole category of like your personal life gets coaching. And what I've noticed is that in that space, your business plays a key role in your personal life. There isn't just like I don't get to clock out and go home. Like I carry this thing with me. So that space never felt very easy to solve my problems. Then on the other side, you got business coaching. And if you go to business coaching and they're like, okay, we got to fix all these systems, like, sure. But still, the question ultimately remains like, if you don't like your business, don't speed it up. You're just going faster the wrong direction. And don't start turning all the dials because you don't know what you're doing, what you're aiming at. And so between those things lies this question of vision. And categorically, I think it's different. If you don't know what you're building, don't hire a business coach, please. Or if you don't like what you're building, don't hire a business coach, please. You will find that making modifications to your business might not get you free. If anything, it might get you more deeply embedded. And subsequently, if you go hire a life coach and you're like, hey, I don't have a personal life, you probably need to change something in your business because your business is the unlock to your personal life as a business owner. So I think categorically, I would urge people to spend more time, urge you listening to spend more time on asking the deeper question, what do you want? And it is a hard question. It is a really hard question. What do you want? Everyone thinks they want to be on Forbes. Bro, I have no interest on being on the front of Forbes with a 5,000 person company. Zero interest in that. But I know me and I know what matters to me and I know where I want to take my life and how I want to show up as a dad, what I want to do with my health. Like I'm clear on that. That doesn't mean that everything is known. There's still a high degree of unknown. When you're a business owner, you're still unknown. But I can march into the unknown knowing what's a clear yes and a clear no. And then I can better apply a coach in my personal life and a coach in my business life. And I have both. I invest in both all the time. But until I know what I want, it is, man, it's like throwing darts at the wall. And I wish there were more programs that stood in this category, but it has been my mission. It's been our mission as a team to really carve that category out and say, hey, before you go looking for speedier vehicles, make sure you understand your destination.
Mm, mm. What I love, Aaron, is you're not asking people to want more, you're asking them to get clear on what actually matters.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are throwing darts in the dark. They're just not really sitting down and approaching it with intention. You hear these words a lot. Actually, it's sort of dying down, but law of attraction. And I always felt really funny about that one because I don't want to give too much credit to the whole law of attraction and say, some people say, the universe gave me this. I believe in a co-creative God, so I have a different belief system, but I do believe in the law of intention.
Love.
Set it and get it, right? Go after it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bring every part of you on board so that the whole of you is on the same team. And it's the same when we look at the physical, right? The external of a business. Like, can we get everybody rowing in the right direction or all the wheels pointing in the right direction? It's also the same for you individually, too. Is every part of me on the same team? That's a powerful person that walks in the room. You're not
Yeah.
split, you're not scattered, you're directed. And so I love everything that you've shared. It's actually reminding me to sit in with my vision. I have a vision mapped out. I used to do 10-year visions. Actually, that'd be a good question to ask you. I was doing 10-year visions and it doesn't scare me to do a 10-year. Some people I found like they get so scared when you say 10. So we go, oh, 5, and they still freak out. And so it's, oh, let's do a 3-year and a 2. And some people can't even do a next week vision. What are your thoughts around this?
Great, great
What do you
question.
think?
I, the, if we say that vision allows you to build strategy, and
Hmm.
strategy allows you to build culture, and then from there you get to make choices and implement. 10 is really far. It's mighty far, namely because the velocity of change that we're in is so fast. You and I might not even need cars in 10 years. That's a
Right.
crazy reality,
You,
right?
you want to keep it to a closer horizon because
Yes.
AI, robots, flying cars,
Yes. Right.
crazy.
So maybe a way to think of it is okay, 10 is hyper loose, right? Really undefined, sort of like big pie in the sky things. 5 becomes maybe a little bit more defined. We do all of our work in 3-year stretches so that there's uh, enough certainty in what we're building as a strategy and a culture to still be pliable, but also to define decisions. So it is very much about how does this help you dictate choices? And I can certainly
Uh,
think with my son, right? It's like 14 years, but it's very loose.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna start getting a little bit geeky with you here. I know we only have a certain amount of time right now. I want to squeeze in a couple more questions here because I find this stuff fascinating. What do you know so far in your research, in your own personal experience about what happens in the subconscious or the non-conscious when it comes to the whole vision process? What shifts? What happens with the neurotransmitters or the neural pathways? Did you ever get into that side of the work in vision?
Some, much of what I know is more anecdotal than specific research. But what we can all look at as far as data is that we have the ability to change how we think and who we are.
Hmm.
And those two things are interrelated, right? Who I am affects how I think, and how I think affects who I am. And what vision ultimately forces you to confront is, am I that person? So we have to become more naturally aware of where we are or aren't. With a very defined vision, it usually is simple, not easy, but simple to look at who do you have to become to lead that. So in one of those immersions, that's one of the questions in one of the four sprints. Four sprints are about 90-minute sessions. And in those sprints, we have to address that. So who is the person that's going to bring this vision to life? Before we get to strategy, who's the person?
So the identity.
The identity. And there's a lot of personal development that is very like non-crunchy, right? It's sort of ethereal, like grabbing for it. What I know personally is that when vision became from back of mind to front of mind, when it moved from like I'm thinking about it, maybe I can, maybe I can't, to front of mind, and the person I was matched that, I went fast. That takes time, right? That's not like an overnight thing. But that's what alignment really looks like to me. It's that I actually want this, and I understand what I'm getting myself into. I'm committed to it. I'm willing to go through the unknowns.
Hmm.
I'm prepared. I'm courageous,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do what's necessary tactically to get there. And when those three things like snap in, then all of the elements of neuroplasticity become very important because I'm going to have to rapidly change. I can't be the self-saboteur. I can't be the guy that people pleases. I can't be the guy that leads the organization from the lens of kindness anymore. We have to build a machine that goes the distance. And those addressings are not front and center of my work, but they are deeply embedded. What I learned is that mindset work has a much different apparatus than this kind of work. We hide the medicine in the cheese. Like we have to address that. You're people pleasing, it's not going to work. Your vision will not come to life if you're people pleasing.
Ooh, it's like the identity has to catch up with the vision in order for
Yes,
the strategy to hold, right? And
correct,
and
correct.
and and alignment is when the identity and the commitment and the tactics all like snap together, come together. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that's cool.
It all lives in the same place.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, you just painted a picture in my mind. I just saw it all coming together. I thought, wow, that's cool. Awesome, man. Well, hey, look, I love this conversation. We're gonna do a part two. We're gonna keep
Let's do
rocking
it.
with this. I love it. And your book, when do you think that's coming out? It's probably
Early 27 would be my
22.
guess.
Yeah, I figured
Uh,
it'd be about, yeah, maybe 5 months, 6 months. Yeah.
yeah, there's a, you know this, like there's a deep artistic process in that.
Uh,
And I want to do the art right. And then we'll go to the moon with it. But maybe that's a great time to come back on. I can share more about it as it gets
yeah.
close to launch too.
Yeah. And it's amazing who you're becoming in the process of writing the book as well. I don't know about you, but I'm realizing so much about my journey because I have been extracting from old podcast interviews, from conversations I had 14 years ago. Sometimes I'm like, "Oh God, dude, I can't believe you said that back then." And sometimes I'm like, "Who is this guy? He's a legend.
Yeah, I
He's
like it,
dropping
guy.
bombs." So yeah, so you realize there's different almost versions of you, evolutions or seasons of you that you are in this journey as you look back and connect the dots. And I just can't wait to hear the compilation of all the things that you have experienced and what you put into this book because I know it's a big task, a big undertaking. We had Simon Sinek on the podcast a long time ago, and he was talking about that whole process, and he just says like it's just this really great way to contribute because you turn what you've experienced into a physical form that gets shared, and you're immortalizing your experience. And I think the fact that you're actually on the ground running with CEOs, founders, executives, entrepreneurs, you're actually in the trenches with them. That's such valuable insight and advice that no LLM AI model or Google web search can copy paste. So I'm excited for your book to come out, man. How can we find you online? Where do we go?
But all my accounts are the same. I'm lucky to have a name that's unique enough that I don't have to worry about too many competitors. So I would welcome any of you listening to follow me on Instagram. I've been really quiet as I sort of birth all this work, but my handle there is Aaron, Aaron, Velky, V as in vision, Elky.
Easy one to remember. I'll put it in the show notes too. Brother, appreciate you, man. God bless. I have one last question for you. I ask every guest.
Mm.
The question is, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like?
I wish that you take the time to figure out who you are, to figure out what you want, and then you stop at nothing. No hesitation, no pauses, no unwillingness to sacrifice. You go all in on what's authentically yours, on your vision, on your dream. And if that dream is bigger than you, it will be worth whatever cost is extracted. Time to get after it.